What is up, guys, and welcome to a brand new video on this brand new channel, ChelseaCam. I've been meaning to start this channel since the beginning. Well, I've been meaning to start this channel for about 10 years, but I've really been meaning to start this channel since the beginning of the year. I haven't done so, but I thought there'd be no better or worse day, depending on how you look at it, to start than this day, the 25th of January, I believe it's 25th of January, I don't really know days. Myself at the moment, but where Lampard has been sacked as Chelsea manager. I'm a Chelsea fan. If you're wondering what's happening on this channel, do subscribe if you are new around here. There's gonna be lots more videos. I'm going to bring out a video tomorrow to talk about Tuchel and what I think the future holds for us under him. Spoiler alert, he'll probably get sacked in 2 years' time. But today I'm doing my video on Frank Lampard. There'll be reviews, there'll be previews. I'm hoping to do watch-alongs and things like that on this channel once I get stuff underway. If you've got any ideas, please do let me know. I used to have a FIFA channel and Chelsea channel where I used to do reviews and previews. Not that anyone will remember because it wasn't, no one even watched it. But back in the day, so I've done this before. If that makes any difference, of course it doesn't. Let's talk about Frank Lampard. It doesn't seem to make a difference that he's a Chelsea legend, because even though I thought he'd get more time off the basis that he was a Chelsea legend, top scorer of all time, that wasn't to be the case. And I think that's the biggest thing that's probably surprised me, is that the thing is, I mean, I've seen the writing on the wall with his sacking probably for the last couple of weeks, 3-4 weeks. It just felt like it was brewing. But it's still, and I've always found this, whenever we sack a manager, even if I'm expecting it, it surprises me when it happens, and I don't know why. It's probably something to do with myself rather than on Chelsea specifically. But Lampard sacked as Chelsea manager after 18 months ish, and wow, what do you say really? I'm disappointed, gutted. You know, I think the whole situation's very sad, and that's the thing. And I'm gutted, not really. I mean, I'm gutted for the club, but you know, this is what we do this all the time. We get managers in, they don't get results, and you chop them and you find another one, and the same thing happens. They get results and you wait and they chop them again. The process repeats. It's not like I'm worried about the future of the football club. So there are aspects I'm worried about, no doubt, but I'm just gutted for Frank. I'm gutted for Frank. I'm gutted for myself, because I loved Lampard and I would have loved nothing but he was my favourite ever Chelsea player. You know, when I started watching football when I was 4, Lampard is one of the obvious players that I can first remember. You know, he was my childhood. You know, when I used to play football, you know, I'm not necessarily wanted to be Frank Lampard because I was a striker and then I turned into a defender. So if I wanted to be Frank Lampard, well, I would explain why I'm not a professional footballer now. But I loved him, and I wanted him to succeed, not just because he's a Chelsea legend, but also because he's a really nice guy too. I think he's a lovely guy, and I'm gutted for him because he'll be hurting tonight, no doubt about it. I mean, I don't know how he's supposed not to. Right decision, wrong decision. For me, it's the wrong decision. And there's a lot of talk, and I won't talk too much about Tuchel's expectations until tomorrow's video. But if we don't get top 4, then I don't understand the logic of this. This top 4 now has to be a minimum, because, you know, if we don't get top 4 under Tuchel, why on earth did we sack Lampard here? For me, the writing was on the wall, I think, unfortunately, rightly or wrongly. I don't necessarily think Lampard lost the dressing room. Maybe he did, I don't know, I'm not in there. But I don't feel like he lost the dressing room. And no doubt we've always had an issue in recent years in Chelsea with player power. I'm sure that would have had some sort of impact. But looking at the players, I don't really see any. We don't really have senior players. I don't know senior players to sort of have any authority in you know, to Abramovich. The fact that Abramovich came out and said, you know, what he said and sort of almost had to justify the sack, and I think shows just the level of respect. I know you've probably read that on Twitter about 50 minutes times, but I think he really does, because he doesn't usually do that. But I'm gutted, like I say, for Lampard. I'm also gutted because I think he did a fantastic, I think we all agree, he did an amazing job last year. You know, we lost Hazard, our best player. You know, we had a transfer ban. We had youth players coming through. You know, Christ alive. Tammy Abraham, Mason Mount, you know, it beggars belief that they were playing for Derby only 2 odd years ago in the Championship. It's ridiculous. They came in last season in the Premier League. You know, I'm not saying Mason Mount and Tammy Abraham single-handedly, but they had a massive impact in propelling us to top 4, getting us Champions League football in a season in which, in reality, that shouldn't have been possible. So he heavily overachieved, and for that, I know it's results business. I know we haven't been good enough in the last 3-4 weeks. We've lost too many games. We've had moments where we haven't created chances, and we look at times tactically naive. But at the end of the day, we have to win football matches. I get that, but this man the legend that he is at the club, the name that he has, the job he did last season. You know, the way he's brought youth players through like no other manager has done, and we've been begging for it as Chelsea fans. I believe he deserved to the end of the season. You look at our fixtures that we have ahead. I don't know off the top of my head, but I think it's Wolves. We've obviously got on Wednesday. We've got Wolves on Wednesday. We've got I think we've then got Burnley at home in the Premier League. I know we've got Tottenham away at some point, but we've got Sheffield United as well. You've got Barnsley in the FA Cup. You know, Tuchel could come in and he could win all those games, but then again, at the same time, you could see that Lampard does that. I understand a lot of people say, yeah, but we don't look like we're going to win, though, go on a run. But nor did Manchester United. This year's been bizarre, and I think it's another reason why I think it's harsh, and I think it's the wrong decision. You know, we've been in a COVID year where players have been hit with, to take Havertz, for example, for goodness sake. You know, I don't get this criticism that Lampard had all these signings and, you know, by Christmas, basically, he's expected to, that's all fine. It's COVID year. These players have come from foreign countries, from foreign leagues. Trying to settle in the league is hard enough as it is, as we know. It's settling in a different club. People always talk about the league. I don't necessarily think it's the league. I think it's the club. You know, the way a club plays. Trying to settle into how another football team plays. That's a difficult thing, rather than the league bother. I don't necessarily think you need to cut the pace of the Premier League. Just get used to your teammates and used to your new surroundings. Used to living in a different country. I mean, Havertz, he's 21, 22, similar age to me. He's gone to a foreign country without his friends and his family. In the middle of a pandemic, not exactly the best time to be able to settle down. And then he's gone and got COVID, got it quite bad, suffered very badly from it. It affected him physically on the training pitch and stuff, you know, and missed a month or so, I think it was, through that. You know, I don't see how we can criticise Frank. You know, Werner, Ziyech has been injured a couple of times. Werner's obviously, we all know what's happened to him. It's very unfortunate. You know, I think it's harsh. I think it's ridiculously harsh. I think... you know, the ruthlessness of Roman, you could say, has brought us loads of success over the years. But, you know, if we're able... This is a problem with Chelsea. There's no consistency. And there's no level of consistency with the club. Because the moment it all goes... We don't stay consistent with a manager. There's going to be no consistency. There's always this up and down. You know, 2 years' time, let's see what happens with Tuchel. The moment the results go bad, it'll be turned on. And the same thing will happen. And I thought with Frank Lampard, when we appointed him a year and a half ago, that we were going to change that. And that you know, the way the club dealt with managers, the way we dealt with stuff would be different, but it hasn't been. You know, we've done the same thing again. We've just pretended we weren't going to do it. I think he should have got to the end of the season. I think he deserved that. Do I think he'd have turned around top four? I don't know. The league is just screwed. 1 minute, one side's doing fantastic. The next minute, they're not. I mean, look at Liverpool. Take Liverpool 2.5 weeks ago, okay, coming up to the Man United game. If they win that, I think they went on level points or something like that. They're now miles away and out of the title race, apparently. Klopp's saying they're not out of the title. It's ridiculous. This league this year has been a bit all over the place, probably because the world's a bit all over the place. I think it's harsh. We haven't been good enough in recent weeks, there's no doubt about that. I agree that at times we've looked tactically naive, but how are these players going to look in 6-7 games? You know, I just think there were too many if, buts and maybes, but it's a very sad situation. If the situation was so bad in the dressing room and things and the relationships were all severed, then I guess it had to happen. But the fact that we've got to this stage, again, so quickly with a manager after, 18 months ago all being so positive and having so much positivity is a shame. I hope for Lampard he goes on and has a great managerial career. I'd love him to be the next England manager. I'd love him to come back to Chelsea in 10 years' time, but that's probably just me dreaming. I think, unfortunately, the sad reality of it is that it was the right club, obviously, at the wrong time for Frank, which is a shame because he's a great guy. He's Chelsea through and through. He loved the job. He loved the club. He knew what Chelsea was. And I'm very sad, very sad. My favourite player, a manager who's just genuinely nice, liked by everyone. You can see the reaction from pundits and players and managers. They all think it's harsh. I think it's harsh. But it is what it is. That's what Chelsea do. And the only reason I say it is what it is not because I don't want to, because I'm not emotional, because I'm not upset about it, but it's just, as a Chelsea fan, you kind of expect it. I was shocked earlier, but, it is what it is. What can we do? It's annoying. I worry for Mount. I worry for James. I worry for Abraham. You know, the youth players, Billy Gilmore. You know, how much chance are they going to get under Tuchel? I'd be furious if Mason Mount, you know, somehow gets shafted now as some sort of scapegoat, because he's been fantastic all season for us. It's got nothing to do with the fact that Lampard loves him. The reason Lampard probably loved him was because he was the player that, you know, always gave 110%, always put in a performance, always put a shift in, and was fantastic in quality and in skill too. It wasn't just, you know, somebody who goes and runs around loads. You know, it wasn't that. He ran around loads, but he also does so many things right. You know, he's top of the charts on so many things this season for us at the club. So I'm devastated, I'm disappointed, I'm gutted. But, you know, I am going to obviously back the next manager, but I'm very disappointed in the board. You know, you back the manager, you can't back the manager for 5 months with signings and then just bin them off. I think it's harsh, very, very harsh, very sad day for Chelsea fans and for Chelsea Football Club. I'm sure we'll bounce back, I'm sure we will. You know, we move on to Tuchel now, hopefully, and we move on to Wolves, and hopefully we get a victory and we get ourselves closer to top 4 and propel ourselves back into the mix and the fight for Champions League. But top 4 has to be a minimum now, because it is criminal. If you sack Lampard, don't even give him to the end of the season. You don't give him the respect to give him to the end of the season, you know, and then you don't get top 4. To me, it would be baffling. But millions and millions of pounds spent in the summer, and it seems like that's been Lampard's Achilles heel. That, and the fact that there is this cloud over his head that he is tactically naive and hasn't got enough experience. Whether or not that was the case, the future will tell on how good of a manager Lampard turns out to be at whatever clubs he goes to in the future. But as for Chelsea, we move on to a German manager in Thomas Tuchel. Used to be at PSG, sacked recently in December. Pochettino replaced him, but prior at Borussia Dortmund, where when he was at Borussia Dortmund, his pedigree and his stock was extremely high. It's still high. He's a great manager, great pedigree. Up the Blues. Terrible day, sad day. Probably the sacking that's hit me the most, along with the Mourinho ones. Lampard, a club legend, there's no doubt about that. Him being manager of this football club has done nothing but given me even more respect and more love for the man. So I hope he does well in the future of his football career, and I look forward to seeing a fantastic young English manager go very far. So a sad day for Chelsea and Chelsea fans, but that's that. Frank Lampard, after 18 months at Chelsea Football Club, has gone, and we move on to our next manager, another one. Wow. But that is it for this video. If you have enjoyed it, please do leave a like. If you want to see me do a video on Thomas Tuchel tomorrow, please do let me know down in the comment section below. Leave your thoughts on Frank Lampard's departure down in the comment section below. If you're a Chelsea fan, if you're not a Chelsea fan, what do you think of it? Is it harsh? Do you think it's the right decision? How do you feel about it? And like I say, I'll do more talk about the future under Tuchel, what I think he'll do, players I think he'll like, you know, his expectations, where I expect it to go a little bit tomorrow. But today is for Frank. I don't want to talk about that necessarily. It's not that I don't back Thomas Tuchel. I just can't be asked today. I'd rather leave it till tomorrow. But yeah, what a sad day for Chelsea. Frank Lampard leaving the football club as manager after 18 months. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.